Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to today's daily quiz segment for 24th February 2024. And let's quickly look at the questions that we shall be analyzing today. The first question on your screen talks about Kaziranga National Park. Now we might wonder, why has this question been taken up for analysis today? That is because of an article from the Hindu which says that National Board for Wildlife has approved elevated road project near Kaziranga National Park in Assam. Besides, there's one more piece of news. It has also started making corridors near the Deepor Beel. Now this is a very critical wetland in Assam. So let's remember, in both these designations, corridors shall be created for better ecotourism and for facilitating better solution to infrastructural development in these areas. Now, let's look at the question for the day. The first statement here says Kaziranga National Park in Assam and Chitwan National Park in Sikkim are two important hubs of Indian rhinoceros. Well, looking at the first statement here is absolutely only half correct, because indeed the Kaziranga National Park situated in Assam is one of the largest, in fact, hotspot for Indian rhinoceros. But although Chitwan National Park also houses rhinoceros population, the issue is it is not situated in Sikkim. In fact, it is situated in Nepal. Now, this was actually created as the first national park of Nepal, and this was created back in 1973. It is situated in the Terai region, which is very fertile, known for its biodiversity of endemic species of flora and fauna. Let's also remember that it was back in 1984 that the Chitwan National Park was also declared as a World Heritage Site. And hence, the first statement will be incorrect. It is not in Sikkim. Let's look at the second statement for the day. It says the Indian state of Assam is home to the largest population of greater one-horned rhinoceros. About more than 90% of these rhinoceros are located in the Kaziranga National Park, and this is a correct statement because Kaziranga National Park indeed houses majority of India's one-horned rhinoceros population, and hence second statement only will be valid here, making B as your correct answer. With this, let's proceed with the second question for the day, and this is in the context of hydroelectric power. We are specifically talking about the Nathpa Jhakri hydroelectric power plant. Let's quickly see the context first. Why is this question been picked up for you? It is because of an article in the Economic Times of today which says how China has approved coal power on a massive scale. But the problem is, this is also putting environment at a massive risk, because today, when most countries are talking about solar energy, hydro energy, rather green energy, a decision like this, where we are encouraging coal power plants, will only create more carbon emission, leading to a bigger carbon footprint. In this regard, the question now, it is a set of two statements, and the first statement is that Nathpa Jhakri hydroelectric power plant is the biggest underground hydroelectric power plant in the country. This part is correct, but it says it is situated in Himachal Pradesh. Well, the entire statement is valid here, because indeed the Nathpa Jhakri hydroelectric power plant, that is a concrete gravity dam. Let's also remember that it has been built on river Satluj in Himachal Pradesh. The main purpose is to provide hydroelectric power in the region, and it has been supplying about 1500 megawatts of hydroelectric power in the area of near the Satluj River. So yes, the first statement is correct. Now the second statement, the largest coal mine in India in terms of reserve as well as production is the Jharia coal field. Correct. But is it located in the state of Bihar? Well, no, because the most famous, one of the largest coal mine in India, indeed it is the Jharia. but it is situated in the state of Jharkhand. Let's remember it has one of the largest deposits of coking coal in India. Also one of the richest coal mines in the area of Jharkhand. So the second statement becomes invalid in terms of location, and then A will be your correct answer. And now let's proceed with the third question for the day. This says, which of the following Indian states does not come under the ambit? Ambit means come under the monitoring, come under the part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Now, one of the most popular, well-known biosphere reserves in India that was actually created back in 1986. In fact, this is India's first biosphere reserve. Let's also remember that after being created in 1986, this is known as Nilgiri, considering its situation, that is in the Western Ghats and in the Western Ghat area of Nilgiri Hills. It was included as a part of Biosphere Reserve UNESCO World Identification in 2000. But the question is, if it spans in the Western Ghat areas, which of these states is not included here? So it is situated at the tri-junction of three states, namely Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Now, whether we talk about the Nagarholi National Park or whether we talk about the Bandipur, all these small national parks are the part of the larger reserve that we call as Nilgiri. But Andhra Pradesh is beyond the ambit, and hence C here is the correct answer. Andhra Pradesh is not included in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. The reason why we brought this question to light today is because of an article from the Hindu newspaper which says that 6 wildlife sanctuaries in Karnataka are to be recommended for being declared as ecologically sensitive zones. Now, recently we have been discussing in the news how the episodes of wild animal and human conflict has increased. It is in this light that the government has decided that these are certain areas that are ecologically very, very vulnerable. They cannot tolerate any anthropogenic interference. That means they cannot tolerate any human penetration into these territories, because that causes wildlife distress. Eventually, it leads to animal-human conflict. And hence the question. Now, let's proceed with the fourth question here. It's a pretty direct question. It says, consider the following statements. The first one says, the Financial Action Task Force, often abbreviated as the FATF, is an intergovernmental organization that was founded back in 1989 on the initiative of the G7 countries. The purpose was to fight global money laundering and terrorist financing. Yes, that's a correct statement. In fact, this statement pretty much defines the establishment and the purpose behind FATF. The second statement about FATF says that FATF blacklist. Now, we may have heard in the news about grey list, blacklist, various countries which are experiencing either lots of financial burden or they have been found to indulging in activities that are in the line of supporting terrorism, are often put into the black and the grey list, the watch list of the FATF. So the statement says FATF blacklist includes non-cooperative countries, countries that are not willing to coordinate and cooperate to combat terrorist activities. They are not doing anything to stop terror funding, financing terrorism or money laundering activities. Such countries are referred to as the NCCTs. Countries that are not cooperating or territories that are in fact illegally supporting terrorism smuggling activities. So the second statement is also valid about the motive of FATF. We can say hence that C will be the correct answer. Both the above statements here are valid. This news was highlighted from the Economic Times economy segment, where the article said that FATF has removed UAE, Uganda and Barbados as well as Gibraltar from its watch list. And hence the question was brought up today. And now we can proceed with a PYQ that has been taken from 2020 UPSC Prelims. It says, which one of the following categories of fundamental rights incorporates or includes protection against untouchability as a form of discrimination talking about untouchability, an age-old phenomena associated with caste barriers in India. If this is illegal today, then which article actually promotes abandoning untouchability? Is it A, right against exploitation, or is it B, right to freedom? Is it C, right to constitutional remedies, the heart and soul of fundamental rights, or is it right to equality, D? So indeed here the correct answer is D, right to equality, because as per the Indian Constitution, when you talk about Articles 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18, it typically refers to how Indian Constitution, irrespective of age, gender, caste, creed, race or place of birth or religious affiliation, extends equality protection to each and every citizen of India. And in this slide, specifically, Article 17 talks about abandoning, prohibiting any form of untouchability from being practiced under the ambit of the broader Article 14, right to equality, and hence D here becomes the correct answer. With this, let's quickly have a look at the fact of the day. Now, the fact of the day is rather astronomical and scientific. For the last 1 week, constantly, there has been a news that solar flares are becoming very, very prominent. To some scientists, it's a cause of major concern. Could this bring about immediate, worrisome climate changes, heat waves? That is something that is worrying scientists and astronomers across the world, because solar flares are increasing in number. But what is a solar flare? As the name suggests, a solar flare refers to a huge volume of explosion on the sun's surface. That happens when energy stored in the wavering magnetic fields above the sun in the form of sunspots, it suddenly gets released. It is almost like a piece of fire, flare of fire that's coming out of the sun, as per this illustration. Now, often they can be witnessed as bright, very, very shiny areas on the sun, and they can actually last from just a few seconds to several hours also. In matter of just a few minutes, they have so much potential, they have so much energy that they can heat any material to millions of degrees. They can produce bursts of radiation, outbursts of radiation across the electromagnetic spectrum, including from radio waves to even X-ray and gamma rays. So that's the sheer temperature, that's the sheer intensity of the heat and energy that's being generated in the form of solar flares. Now, sometimes they can cause dangerous impacts also. They can paralyze human life by affecting radio communications, power grids and navigation signals. In fact, they can also pose a danger to astronomers and spacecrafts who have been released into the space already. Now, on that note, generally, solar flares are categorized into many different categories. For example, there are broadly 5 categories that we talk about. This gradation is done in terms of brightness and in terms of X-ray wavelengths. Total, we talk about A, B, C, M and X categories of solar flares. Now, each class, remember, is 10 times more potent. It's 10 times more strong and dangerous than the one before it. So it's almost like a hierarchical gradation in ascending order. It begins with the least and it extends up to the maximum. Let's remember that. So sometimes it is very easy to confuse solar flares with coronal mass ejections, and hence let's understand that coronal mass ejection is a much broader concept. What does that mean? Now, it means that large-scale eruptions happened, and these are composed of charged plasmas or charged particles plus charged magnetic fields from the solar atmosphere, and they are leaking into the space. This is a much broader phenomena than solar flares. Also remember that these are very, very strong. They can not only disrupt ground and space-based technologies, they can also disrupt the pathways of satellites on the Earth. They can disturb the location and the functioning of satellites as well. The evolution of thermodynamic properties, let's remember, of coronal mass ejections such as temperature and density is therefore very, very important to understand. How would they impact navigation, communication, satellite systems on Earth? And with this interesting fact, I take your leave for today. I hope you enjoyed this session. I shall see you soon with more interesting similar sessions. In the meantime, take care and thank you.